The last time we saw Gull-Wing doors on a Mercedes was in the 1960s. 15 years ago, Mercedes-Benz reintroduced that idea in a modern interpretation of that car. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing, and this is a 2011 Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. So the most prominent design feature of this car is the front end, and it's huge. So we're gonna start the front bumper. When you come down here, all Mercedes-Benz, they have their three-pointed star front and center. You have all the vents here in your front bumper that direct air to your radiators and your brakes. You'll notice how long this hood is. We're gonna open up the hood, show you why that is. A couple more important design elements here in the front bumper. You have your integrated parking sensors. These headlights are by Xenon, fully adaptive. They almost look like a menacing psychopath when you see it in the rear view mirror. Very low, very wide. Mercedes-Benz didn't want to spoil the design of the front end by installing a license plate over the logo or beneath here. So they give you a nice little trim piece that actually situates the license plate just beneath your driver headlight, so as to not interfere with the design of the front end or interfere with the parking sensors. Okay, so we're gonna work our way around to the side here, and this is probably the most iconic profile of this car because it gives you an idea as to how big this hood actually is. This hood almost accounts for 50% of the car, and the driver sits right behind. But we're gonna start down here, right beneath these huge fiberglass fenders. These are the standard wheels that you get on an SLS AMG. They're double staggered, so they're wider in the back than they are in the front. They're also a 19-inch rim in the front, 20-inch rim in the back. Carbon ceramic braking system. This is pretty much as good as steel brakes can get. So you have these giant steel rotors. They're about an inch thick. They're cross-drilled and they're slotted, and the disc is actually separate or connected to the rotor hat. This is done for better heat dissipation. This car was spec'd with painted gray brake calipers. It's a Brembo caliper, 6-piston, and you have the nice AMG logo inscribed on there. Really nice touch. When you come around to the side here, this fender seems to keep going and going and going, right? So you have a vent here and matching vents on the hood with these strakes. Now this is done for aerodynamics, also to expel heat. They put a 6.3 badge on the fender because the engine's a 6.2. Ask Mercedes. When we come over to the side here, we come probably to the car's most best party trick, and that's the Gull-Wing doors. So when you press unlock on the key, these door handles, which are normally flush, expose themselves. All you do is pull this up, the door unlatches, and it goes up like this. So this shows the tub that you kind of got to step over in order to get into the car. Takes a bit of practice, but it's not hard. Easy to get in and out. And when we come back here to the rear wheel, you see a lot of the similar stuff that you see with the front. This wheel's a bit bigger. It's a 20-inch rim. Tires are made by Continental, and these tires have the MO designation on them, which means that they were designed specifically for Mercedes. Mercedes-Benz and Continental are like peanut butter and jelly. Both very old companies and have been working together for tires in cars since probably for over 100 years. So you can see from the side profile exactly how long the hood is. That accounts for almost 50% of the length of the car. The next 30% is the cockpit, and whatever's left over is tied into the back here, which is extremely tightly and neatly done. You have full LED lighting back here for your brake lights and stuff like that. You have your integrated chrome exhaust tips right here. This car has a really nice snarl. You have your rear view camera, which is hidden underneath here. Now you can tell by the rear design of the car that it's very slippery. Like it all juts in kind of like this, and seems really aerodynamic. Let's take a look at the trunk. So not a lot to brag about in here. You have the integrated spoiler, which is built into the trunk lid, which we're going to demonstrate for you in a bit. So not a whole lot of space, but the one thing that Mercedes-Benz insists that has to have work with every car that they design, you have to fit a set of golf clubs. That's why they always have some sort of recess on one side of the trunk. So when you lay your golf clubs in and you have your drivers and stuff, you kind of put that in first and lay your golf bag down. This is a must for any Mercedes. Okay, before we go inside the car, I just wanted to show one nice, neat little design element is the gas door. So most German cars, it's on the passenger side of the car. This is not just for looks, but it's actually made of polished aluminum. So you just press on it and the door opens like this. And this is how you put your fuel in. This is all fastened with these rivets here, motorsport inspired. Now, when you walk up to the car and the car is locked, the door handles are flush with the door. So in order to get them to open, you just hit unlock with the key and the door handles expose themselves. You just pull up. Now you have these pistons that are built into the door that actually assist you in lifting up the door. Interesting fact about these pistons is that they have these explosive charges in them that will blow the doors off in the event that the car is in a rollover and it's on its roof. When you have a car with Gull-Wing doors and the car's on its roof, you're not going to be able to open the doors. Believe it or not, this explosive feature is a safety feature. It's not that hard to get in, but first, fold up your legs and get in. I'm 6'1". It's easy for me to grab this door and close it, but for those of you who are shorter, if you have gator arms, Mercedes-Benz will sell you a leather strap to loop around this, so it's easier to grab the door and pull it down. Okay, now that we're inside the car, you're gonna see a lot of features and things in here that remind you of ordinary production Mercedes cars. For example, the navigation system, your button console, your climate control. They borrow these out of normal cars, but there's a number of features here that are SLS specific. One of them would be this beautiful gauge cluster. 2 gauges, your revs on your tachometer on the right, your speedometer on the left with this simple digital readout in the middle. You also have shift lights that are at the top of your instrument cluster. The dash for this SLS is almost upright and it's very close to you. And the reason for that is the positioning of the engine. So the engine is actually in front of the occupants, but it's considered front mid. So although it's underneath that hood, it's behind the front suspension. So some of that intrudes into your passenger space, but it still feels nice and cozy in here. These vents are SLS specific as well. Alcantara roof liner. This particular car was also equipped with the Bang & Olufsen sound system. So you have your tweeters that are fixed in the corners of your dashboard here. Really nice high-end sound system. You got speakers on the ground next to your foot and speakers that are built into the door, plus speakers on your rear deck back here. Over here, you have your array of buttons that have to do with performance. So you have your rotary knob that lets you choose between your different driving modes. So you have comfort, sport, sport plus, and manual. When you put the car into these different modes, your suspension firms up, your shifting changes, and things like that. The car will remain in automatic. If you want to put it into a mode where you're the one who's commanding what gears the car goes in, you just put it into M. You have your start button. Beneath that, you have your button which helps you disable your traction control, and you have a button that gives you control over the deployment of your spoiler. You also have a button here that is your AMG button. So think of this almost like a sport button that you can press that does some of the things that I described. This shifter is specific to an SLS AMG, which is connected to a 7-speed multi-clutch transmission. Now, the cool thing about that transmission is that normally you have the transmission tunnel right in front of you with the bell housing facing that way. So this car has what they call a transaxle positioning for the transmission. So the transmission is actually behind us and it's facing in the opposite direction. This is done for weight distribution. It's a 7-speed multi-clutch or double clutch. Mercedes calls it multi-clutch. And an interesting fact that it actually shares the same transmission with the Ferrari 458. And funny enough, they both are within 1 horsepower of one another. Gear ratios are probably different, but it's just interesting that when this car came out, it came out 1 year after the 458. And it's cool to know that they kind of share some of those parts. This car's interior is a 2-tone. It's called standard black with AMG classic red Napa leather. Napa leather is specific to AMG cars. So the leather has like the slightest sheen to it and looks to be a lot smoother than your standard Mercedes with a more grainy leather. You have contrast stitching on the red parts with black stitching. Black parts continue with the black stitching. Brushed aluminum trim. Some cars are equipped with carbon fiber trim. So your steering wheel and this portion that you see in brushed aluminum is done in gloss carbon fiber. The seats are heavily bolstered. You have a reasonable amount of adjustment when it comes to moving them forward and back. They are electric and have a good amount of adjustment. You also have air pockets inside the seat that you can use in order to, let's say, inflate the bottom to kind of help your posture, and which really helps when you're driving a car like this on long drives. This goes for the driver and the passenger. This car has got a really nice steering wheel. Looks a bit dated today, but still serves its purpose. It's all sewn in nice Napa leather with perforated hand grips here. You have steering wheel fixed shift paddles. They're kind of small, but they're made of brushed aluminum that kind of matches the trim that's on your on your console here. Big question is, where's the cup holders? Well, you gotta kind of sacrifice your armrest in order to put your coffee. So when you move this back, this exposes your two little cup holders here. With German cars, this always seems to be an afterthought, but hey, I think it works. When I put this back into position, you have a little storage compartment back here. So when I open this, you're gonna see a keyhole and a traditional Mercedes ignition switch. So the car has keyless start, or what Mercedes calls keyless go. So when I hop in the car, all I gotta do is put my foot on the brake and press the start button. But sometimes the keys run out of battery and the key is not able to communicate with the car. So what you would do is you would take your key with a dead battery and you just stick it in this traditional ignition switch back here just to get the car started. Okay, now let's see what this thing sounds like. Okay, now let's see what makes this car special. Huge hood. This is a huge piece of stamped aluminum. Other models you can get in the SLS, like the final edition or the Black Series, where this is made of carbon fiber, it significantly reduces weight. But it's a big door, and you can actually open it to service height, and it goes pretty much perpendicular to the floor, right up, so you can get in there and do what you got to do. So this is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8 rated at about 563 horsepower. When the car came out, it held the world record for about a year for the fastest production naturally aspirated V8 in the world. It held that record for about a year before it was replaced by another vehicle. But if you were to get the Black Series model, they increased the horsepower and reclaimed that record. So what I was mentioning before is that the engine configuration, or the positioning is what they call front mid. So it's in front of the driver, but behind the front suspension. So the reason for that, by putting it behind the front suspension, this is all done for weight distribution. So I'm standing at the front wheel right now, and the motor starts actually right here. Everything that you see in front is all for cooling. There's lots of space here. This is for your engine oil. This is just a decorative cover, but you have a solid dry sump lubrication system beneath there. These are your air filters. This sucks air from the front bumper, from either side of that three-pointed star, forces air into these panel filters right here, and then forces it into each cylinder bank. There's a lot of space in here, but this is all done, form follows function with this car. So Mercedes-Benz, being the crazy Germans that they are, they did a really good job of maintaining the look that they wanted, but making everything functional. And this car, shows that really well. Engine situated very low. It's far below your dashboard and everything like that. And again, all for weight distribution. One important design element that I wanted to point out is the indentation in the center of the hood. So it kind of comes up a little bit in order to accommodate these doors, but this kind of directs air right over the back and pretty much targets it to go towards the retractable rear spoiler. This provides downforce on the back end to help keep the car on the ground. So although the car has a 6.2 liter engine, there's a 6.3 badge on the side, and this has more significance than you think. The very first AMG car was, AMG was not with Mercedes at the time. They were a performance house where they took what we would interpret today as a Mercedes-Benz E-Class and bored out the engine to 6.3 liters. So the whole 63, 6.3 doesn't necessarily denote the size of the engine. It's more as a throwback to the first official AMG car. So back in 2010, if you were to order this car, the price would have started at about $198,000 Canadian. Today, this car with 19,000 kilometers is worth about $270,000. So if you want to buy an Icon that's only going to be going up in value, you're looking at it. I'm Nima from MVL Leasing. Don't forget to like and subscribe.